Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Youth Have a Voice podcast. If you're new here, my name is Feolami Awa Joseph, and I am the host of this podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that is quite popular amongst all age groups and has the tendency to affect everyone, but I feel like it's definitely not deliberated on enough. Today, I'll be talking about burnout. For the past 4 years, every December, I create my goals for the next year. And before I create my goals and New Year resolutions, I always try to look back at the goals I had set from the previous year. And then I end up journaling or recording myself, extensively evaluating every goal that I went through for that year. This serves as a way for me to see and track my progress and extensively evaluate how far I went and what needs to change in the new year and basically how I can improve on myself. So, through the help of social media, my methods of goal setting, journaling, and all have really improved. And I have learned so many new forms every day. Although sometimes I would say that it can be overwhelming because social media has so many methods of goal setting and journaling. And when you have so many of these things lined up, sometimes you may get really overwhelmed. I remember in 2022, for the very first time, I created a pictorial vision board of the things I wanted to achieve for 2023. And I remember that became my lock screen for 2023, at least for the very first months of 2023. So it was my lock screen on my phone, and then it was also the lock screen on my desktop. So everywhere I went to, I always saw the vision I had planned out for the year. I had extremely lofty goals of how I wanted the year to go, and although I had no idea of how some of the goals were going to be achieved, I remember I held on to the Bible verse Matthew 17, verse 20-21, which says, "If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." I also held on to another very popular Bible verse which states that faith without works is dead. This basically means, from my understanding, that as you believe and trust that some of your aspirations and goals would come to pass, you also have to take the right steps and actively work towards putting in the work for your goals to come to pass. I remember with this mindset, I was extremely ready for 2023. Now, 2023, I would say it was a very interesting year for me, and I probably achieved half of the goals I had set out, but it also came with a lot of challenges and, of course, burnouts. Because I was sure that I had taken the right steps towards starting 2023 on the right foot, I felt this would make my year. I felt that it would become my year to achieve everything I wanted. I remember I even felt that to get myself into the habits of my new mindset, I should start working hard towards the goals I had set out in December of 2022. So I would use one of the goals I had set out as an example. In 2023, one of the goals I had set out in December of 2022 was to get fitter and to lose weight and exercise more practically every day. So, because I wanted to have the mindset that if I start now, it will be easier for me to continue in 2023, I remember I worked really hard in December of 2022 to try to achieve this goal. So, through this goal, I started off really well, I would say so myself. But at the end of the day, I ended up getting a sprain on my leg and later found out that I had torn my ligament and I could not properly walk for what I would say ended up being about 4 months of 2023. So from like January to April of last year, I wasn't really good at walking and I had sprained my leg badly. And because of transferred pain, I remember I ended up going to other parts of my leg, and it was generally a really rough time for me, if I would say so. So, despite my fitness goals seemingly being out of the window, I had still set out a lot of lofty goals of things I wanted to achieve for 2023. And I was still very hopeful for the vision and how I intended the year to run out. So by March of 2023, I remember I received bad news, which was meant to be. So the bad news I received was related to a goal I had set out. And because of that, I immediately realized I was fed up and I wasn't really interested in achieving any other thing I had planned on doing because I had put basically all my eggs in one basket and I felt that that was the plan and purpose for my life. And then later on, I immediately realized that I was burnout. So, if you don't know what burnout means, according to WebMD, it's a form of exhaustion caused by constantly feeling swamped, and it happens when we experience too much emotional, physical, and mental fatigue for too long. In my case, my burnout had been as a result of overwhelming myself mentally and physically with too much work to do. And I remember during the time I was burnout, I became very lazy. Things that would take me maybe 5 to 10 minutes to do would end up taking me days or even weeks. Funny enough, I was highly functional despite being burnout, as I was only burnout relating to things that had to do with my life or my personal development. At my internship at the time, I was still putting all in my work and I worked at my best capacity. However, anything that had to do with me working on my personal development just seemed so difficult for me to carry out. I felt tired mentally and physically and generally became very, very cranky. There are so many signs that you may be burnout that you may not even realize you have. Burnout can be felt physically, emotionally, and behaviorally. And some of the common signs of burnout may include headaches, stomach aches, change in sleep and appetite, an increase in helplessness, a sense of anxiety and doubt, failure, loneliness, increase in procrastination, reduction in performance, and so much more. It's very possible that you may have been burnout without realizing it. And burnout can happen based on so many reasons, but I think the main one I would like to think burnout may come from is biting way more than you can chew. In simple terms, overworking yourself. In my case, I think that social media was the biggest factor resulting to my burnout at the time. So on social media, I'm on different sides of social media. I'm on the fashion side, I'm on the food side, I'm on the comedy meme side of social media, but I'm also on the productivity and motivation side of social media, which also deals with mental health and self help and all those things, entrepreneurship and all. So on my consumerism side of social media, I saw multiple people my age and even younger taking up so many activities and seemingly achieving them all. And they just seemed like they were the most productive people ever. They will start their day at very early hours of the day, maybe like 4 a.m., and they would accomplish so much. And as the overachiever I am myself, and as well as a morning person, I thought that this was the perfect formula for me to be able to achieve all the goals I wanted to achieve. I think what started going wrong was when I would see certain people going at a faster track in life, and that would make me think that I was going too slow. So just because I wanted to catch up with everyone else, I ended up taking so much more work, and I will end up doing more than my body or my mind could like do in a day. So I ended up taking up so much work, and it ended up harming me mentally and physically. And I think this was also a way for me to feel some sort of internal satisfaction. So I've realized that as I get older, I believe strongly in the popular quote that comparison is a thief of joy. You may be on a level in your life, maybe you're on level 10, and then I am on level 1 in my life. The best part is that age has nothing to do with your progress. A 21-year-old may have found their life's calling already, but a 35-year-old may still not have figured it out yet. I think that that does not make the 35-year-old a failure. A 60-year-old may have just started university and a 20-year-old is also graduating with them. That does not make the 60-year-old a failure of any form. Someone on the path of burnout may begin overworking themselves based on society's perception of how fast and slow they think you should be going. It's really important to remember that everyone's pace is different and that there's a first time for everything, and everyone would always be on a different phase of their life. Even when things don't go as planned, it's not the end of the world. As long as you're not lazy and you steadily work towards your goals, everything would eventually be fine. Other ways that one may get burnout is through a lack of praise or celebration. I've realized actually that a lot of people thrive on validation, be it academic validation, grades, work validation, beauty validation, and so much more. A lot of people actually cannot thrive without constant attention or constant celebration to acknowledge what they are doing. And when it seems like that factor is gone from their lives, it feels like a part of them has been actually removed. So, for example, someone who always gets like A's in school, and their parents decide, oh, my child is getting A's in school all the time. Because of this, I'm always going to give them money, or I'm always going to proclaim to the entire world how good they're doing. And then maybe as they enter university, they realize that no one is actually giving them that much attention anymore. The thrive or the strive for them wanting to always do well has gone, because in university they're kind of on their own, so no one is really putting that much attention on them. And also because there are a lot of other people who are also on the same wavelength as them and are also doing just as much great things as them. Because of that, they end up not working at their full capacity. So the simple things that they had been doing because they were getting praise for, when there's suddenly no one praising them for them, they suddenly feel a withdrawal from themselves, and they end up realizing that they have actually become burnout, because the factor that kept them going and kept them trying to overwork themselves is no longer there to push them forward. So, in order to avoid burnout, it's important to remember that you're not a fictional superhero. And this means that it's important for you to take breaks and know your limits. Resting is not a crime, and you don't have to overwhelm yourself to do so much to think that you're being productive. Sleeping is productive, and I would also say that taking breaks to focus on yourself when work becomes a lot to handle is also productive. Another thing to remember as a key tool to avoid burnout is everyone's journey to life is completely different. You can use other stories as a form of motivation or even inspiration, but you should never get to the point in life where you think you are useless and you're not working well because you think that other people are ahead of you and you're working at a very slow rate. There's this funny meme that has been circulating across social media recently, where the author wrote, "You think Instagram is ruining your self esteem? Go scrolling on LinkedIn for 5 minutes, lol." Remember, no one posts the negative sides of their life on social media, and everyone will always try to make themselves look better than they are. Because of this, it's important to remember that not everything is rosy and you should not compare yourself with other people. And if you think that you can't deal with the pressure, mute, unfollow, and block. That's how you deal with the pressure. All in all, I would say that burnout is a very serious issue. And if you are struggling or you think you are facing some sort of challenge, talk to a trusted family member or friend, take a break to recuperate, then you can bounce back better than before. Remember, it always gets better over time. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Youth Have a Voice podcast. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe, and share with your friends and family members. Once again, my name is Feolami, and I am the host of this podcast, and I will see you in next week's episode. Goodbye.